With this, we come to the last stage in the conference. That will be the closing remarks by Dr. Sibylle Bauer, who is the chair of the consortium. She's also the director of studies and the director of armament and disarmament issues within SIPRI. Sorry about taking a lot of the time, but we do have some extra time. And if you want to sit here, we can change spots so you can do that. Yep?
Sure.
Okay.
Do that. So, thank you, Gustav. It's time to draw this conference to a close. One purpose of the consortium and this conference is to facilitate an exchange between policymakers and experts, academics, but it's also very important to keep in mind that this is not a one-way street. So we are providing expertise and input into the policy-making process, but I'm also hoping that this exchange will have sparked ideas for new research that could be conducted by academics who are here in the room and future PhDs to be pursued on these topics. We've covered really quite a wide range of issues here, and with many of them, the focus was also about the role that the EU could or should play in this area. One thing that Jacek said in the beginning, it's important to keep in mind, he said that the international context has never been more challenging in the past conferences. I seem to remember that I've heard that every conference, so it seems to be getting worse and worse, and we really need to do something about it. And I think the first introductory session was also quite a clear reminder of the geopolitical tensions that are in the room. So political will is one of the issues that needs to be addressed. But I believe also that there's never been such a strong need for innovative, creative thinking, forward-looking thinking, and fresh ideas. That is actually something that was raised at the Next Generation conference that we had here on Thursday, where some of the keywords that were raised were the need to think outside the box and the need to think outside the blocks. So thanks to Sakaya for that. I think it's really good to keep it in mind. And I think all this is also a very strong reminder that there's a need for what I like to refer to in some of my colleagues as strategic empathy, which means the ability to put yourself in other person, other countries' shoes and see things from their perspective. And it takes real listening skills. It's about what's in it for them and not just what's in it for me, as one of my good friends who's here at the conference likes to say. One of the issues that was also highlighted at the Next Generation conference is that we need to look out for commonalities, not just what divides us, but also what unites us. And also to look at missed opportunities in a positive sense, to highlight that there are actually ways to move forward. And to look at reducing incentives for missile and arms buildups, not just look at fixing the problems. And I'd like to specifically thank Maimouna for having made those excellent points at the Next Generation conference. I'd like to also pick up on a point that Mr. Ma made. You pointed out that we waste a lot of resources first on arming, and then we spend a lot of money on disarming. So it's really a very good question about how we as humanity make our investment and spend our resources in many different ways, not the least also from an environmental perspective, which gains more and more attention. One important point was also what Norway reminded us of, the need to celebrate our achievements. So they're also good news, and it's very important that we also focus on seized opportunities, not just the missed ones. And that very much relates to one of the key roles that the EU plays that has also been highlighted actually throughout all sessions almost, the importance of upholding existing norms, but also think through establishing new norms where that is needed and to apply existing norms to new technologies. I already referred to the Next Generation Day that we held on Thursday. That's actually the first time in a few years that we had that full day. And I must say it was an extraordinary day in terms of the quality of the analysis, the freshness of thinking, and the forward-looking nature of the thinking. And actually wish that all of the policymakers who are here today from EU member states and from the institutions were actually at this conference. There was actually recordings, materials are available, so you can also go back and have a look at that. But I should also say that we shouldn't be surprised that it was such a solid day in terms of analysis and good ideas, because this is what the next generation has to offer. And we should really make systematic use of that. And I would really like to pull next generation thought and participation in a very active way also in future conferences in speaking capacities, not just in the audience. One of the issues that was raised a lot and highlighted a lot in the session today was the importance of gender. And it was quite interesting because at this Next Generation event, it was not an issue. Our Italian colleagues had put out a call for papers. They received 100 responses from all over the world. 70 of the respondents were women. They then selected the 12 best suggestions and proposals, of which 10 were women. So nobody can say that women are not interested in these issues and young people are not interested in these issues. There was also an issue about, and that was highlighted in the presentation on the ADT, that EU and UN member states more strongly reflect on their participation in meetings and gender balance, and also making sure that women are not just participating, but also heads of delegation. I think this is also something where we could do some critical self-reflection about this conference. I think it may have been improving. It would be good to actually do some statistics. To what extent not just EU member states, but also all the network members have gender balance in their participation in their delegations. So I would encourage everybody to keep that in mind for themselves, not just for the others, as we go forward into 2020. One thing that is also important that was raised at the in an informal conversation yesterday is that perhaps we could even make better use of the thinking in the network and the analysis is being done. We do that through the EU policy paper series, so there are 65 by now on a range of interesting issues, more recently on swarms, on dual uses in the life sciences. I know that all the printed copies are gone, but they're all available in more environmentally friendly electronic format. So you're all encouraged to go to the website. We could perhaps also make better use of the newsletter in making some of the academic analysis that is available more easily available to policymakers. And also thinking about the Next Generation workshop, there's a lot of great expertise in thinking, not just in Europe and beyond. So we could also think about ways in which we could make that more easily available, because not all policymakers, probably no policymaker has the time to go through academic journals and to find the interesting books and conclusions that are available there. And when I look at the list of countries that was represented at the Next Generation workshop, it's actually quite impressive. Many different countries from Japan to India, Pakistan, various European countries, Mexico, so on and so forth. So I think we really benefit greatly from drawing on the thinking also from others in the region. And that takes me to not just the proposals that were made here about what the EU can do, but also things that we as a network and as a consortium can do going forward. And by necessity, the first decade of the consortium and the network was more inward-looking. We focused very much on building up this capacity in Europe. And I think now it's also time to go and engage more with the rest of the world, not just at this annual conference, but I'm sure there are many more ways to do that. One concrete proposal was also to think about the e-learning modules that we have and translate them. So any donors here who are willing to put up money to translate them into Arabic, into French, Spanish, please let us know. I think that would be a great resource that we could also further use. And the other suggestion that was made, there was a very strong resonance on strengthening non-proliferation and disarmament education. And that is something that I think very much is in line with what the UN Secretary General has been emphasizing. It fits with the SDGs. So looking into the future, maybe one vision, one idea could be to, in a few years, have a separate council decision on disarmament education. It's really something where I think there's a lot of scope to do things, not just internally in the EU, but also beyond in engaging with the world, as I like to put it. And one of the strengths also, and I should emphasize that when we talk about innovative thinking of this network, it is quite unique because it brings together different social science disciplines from international law, IR, different political science departments, from all EU member states and some countries in the broader European neighborhood, but also the natural sciences. So we have engineering departments, physics, IT, biology. And only when you bring all those disciplines together, I think, you can really, truly address the problems that we are facing today in the world. So I think we can actually do more in strengthening the network. I'm sure there are more potential members. We now have 90, so Jacek, you need to update the slides. It said more than 60. We're actually 90 now, and I'm hopeful that next year will be three-digit numbers. But I'm also asking all of you, if you have potential network members, think tanks, research centers, university departments, working on any of the disciplines that may have something meaningful to say about the issues that we need to tackle, please let us know. I know there are more. And it's also important to keep in mind, and this is also one of the very few good news with Brexit, that we can actually keep the UK network members in the network because it's not constrained to the EU. We also have members from Ukraine and from Switzerland, and we could have members from other Southeastern European and Central Eastern European countries. So please also come to us if you have good suggestions and contacts from those regions. In 2020, I think many of the issues that we discussed here will also be on the agenda. Unfortunately, they will not go away. I think there are also some issues that we could strengthen more on the agenda, like the Women, Peace and Security agenda could possibly be a dedicated panel. And I think we could also even further strengthen the dialogue role that we play here. It's really important, in my view, not just to talk about other regions, but to talk with other regions and have everybody whose discussion we focus upon participate in these rooms. With that, I'm coming to thank yous, a list. So, of course, thanks to the EU for having funded the consortium and the network for almost a decade. As I like to say, you can't take it for granted that the EU values independent thinking and actually wants to listen to independent expertise in their policy making and take that into account. And as Susanne said, it's not just, you can't dismiss it, it's not just money. Without money, you can't really do things. It's also a sign of commitment and being serious about an issue. So I think it's very important that the EU has actually dedicated resources to this. My next thank you goes, of course, to Jacek. You have made a very strong personal commitment to this consortium, to the network, and I would like to thank you for excellent cooperation over all these years. You really have made, and everybody who's worked with this over the years knows that Jacek's personal commitment to this has played a huge role in taking these issues forward and making this a reality. So thank you very much for that. Maybe we can have a round of applause just for Jacek. Then a word of thanks to the consortium and the network, all of you who are here. And the special thanks, of course, goes to one particular consortium member, EI. the colleagues from Italy who've taken on the task of organizing this annual conference. When you joined the consortium 2 years ago, you probably didn't realize how much you had taken on with the annual conference and how it may have transformed your lives, especially in the weeks and months before the conference, adding a lot of stress and many hours of overtime. So I would like for all of you also to thank the colleagues here, especially Ettore, Federica, Georgia, but also the whole team who's here. Thank you very much. And I should say it's really thanks to them also that the Next Generation workshop has been back on the agenda. They've made a personal commitment and taken this forward, and it's been a huge success. They've also made an effort to make the conference more environmentally friendly. So I think this is a good achievement, and I'm sure we can do even more of that. Unfortunately, I think that just talking to computer screens is not the same as talking to and meeting people in person. So I'm not sure we can do much about all the airplanes and the pollution that we cause with that. But I think it's also offset by all the good relations that we build at this conference. I really think it hugely outweighs all the spending that we do unnecessarily on many armaments issues. And with that, I'd like to give the last thank you to all of you, the participants, having sacrificed your Saturday to discuss non-proliferation and disarmament issues. I really think that also cannot be taken for granted. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for very actively engaging in discussion and contributing to all of this. And I look forward to seeing many of you again in the next year at this conference and at other activities. Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you very much, Sibylle, also for this. We are having